Picture this, a woman in 1913 standing in front of the White House holding a banner that reads liberty, equality, fraternity. This was not a request, it was a demand. Her name was Alice Paul, and what she set in motion, what she dared, would become one of the longest, most brutal legal battles of American history. A battle that we're still fighting because here's the thing about equality. It's never given. It unfortunately has to be taken. Welcome to the Unveiled Mind. I'm Jacquelyn Cuyler, addiction therapist, healer, and woman who knows firsthand what it means to fight for recognition under the law. Today we're going to be pulling back the curtain on the Equal Rights Amendment. Its history is a ghost story. Its present, a rebellion, and its future, well, that really does depend on us. Before we begin, however, I cannot help but mention one of our most amazing sponsors. The Cumin Club has so amazingly delicious, wonderful Indian food. These options are freeze-dried, and you just add water. These nutrients and flavor are not missing here. Use code word Jackie at checkout to get 30% off your whole order. Go to thecuminclub.com, and again, in the checkout, put Jackie in the code word and receive 30% off your whole order. I was recently blessed to speak at the Equal Rights Amendment rally that was hosted in Susan B. Anthony Park here on Memorial Day here in Rochester, New York. As a member of the National Organization of Women, the Rochester, New York branch, they asked me to come and speak. For those who missed it and want to see the live version, you can go to my YouTube channel, as it'll be one of the few videos that you can see of me out in the wild, as they say. But I'm also going to read it to you now so that you can understand the urgency and, of course, what the rest of this episode is going to be about. So to begin with, I want to talk about the unfinished promise. Let me tell you about a promise unkept. In 1923, Alice drafted the Equal Rights Amendment with 3 simple words: equality under law. A century later, we're still waiting, not because the idea was radical, but because equality, it seems, terrifies those who profit from its absence. We are a nation built on promises, but some promises remain ink on paper, unsigned. The Equal Rights Amendment is not just a line in the Constitution, it's the bedrock of justice we've been denied for generations. Without it, women, cis, trans, black, brown, queer, disabled, are left fighting for scraps of equality in courtrooms, boardrooms, and bedrooms. The ERA says what should have always been obvious: our rights are not conditional, they are not up for debate, and they are not women's issues. They are human rights. We move on to the trans women in the canary in the coal mine. To those who ask, does the ERA include trans women? Flip the script. Does the 14th Amendment exclude black women, as it did for a very long time? Rights aren't rights if they come with asterisks. When states ban trans girls from sports or healthcare, they're recycling the same playbook used to bar women from voting. You don't count. The ERA says otherwise. Let me be clear, when you exclude trans women from the fight for equality, you are not protecting womanhood, you are betraying it. Trans women are often the litmus test to how this country treats all women. If their rights are stripped, so can yours. If their bodies can be legislated, so can yours. The ERA is not a shield for some, it is a sword for all. And when we wield it together, we cut down the lie that equality does have that asterisk. This isn't just about laws. It's about the waitress who's paid less than everyone else that she works with, the black mother who fears for her son and daughter, the trans teenager who hears politicians debate she has not the right to exist. The ERA is the floor. It is not the ceiling. It is not the highest piece. But right now, too many of us are fighting to just stand on solid ground. We do not need inspiration anymore. We need infrastructure. Some will say, but we have the Civil Rights Act. Tell that to Lilly Ledbetter, who's lost years of wages because of pay discrimination laws had more holes than Swiss cheese. Patchwork laws are Band-Aids on bullet wounds. The ERA is the cure. And then we have the stakes of silence. They'll tell you that the ERA is redundant. Again, Tell that to the pregnant worker who was fired because they needed extra time for biological processes. Tell that to the lesbian couple evicted because of religious freedom. Tell that to the trans woman denied health care because her pain isn't legitimate. Equality delayed is equality denied. And we've waited long enough. Just as Ruth Bader Ginsburg once said, the ERA is about the pace of change. Well, the pace has been glacial. But today we hold the matches in a tinderbox of inequality. Ratify the ERA, not just for the women of 1923, but for the trans teen surviving homelessness. The mother paid 82 cents on the dollar. The immigrant domestic worker invisible to labor laws. Light the match, burn the loopholes, and finish this revolution. History doesn't ask if we fought. It asks who we fought for. The ERA is our answer. Every last one of us. Now, will you sign your name beside ours? Good. Then let's get to work. And that's the end of my speech that I was very honored to give at a beautiful park in Susan B. Anthony Square Park, where Susan B. Anthony and Frederick Douglass are sitting, having a cup of tea in the middle of the busy city as it goes around us. If you really were touched by this and you've never done it before, go to www.signforera.org and sign that bitch up. Get this done. The link is also in the comments where you can sign your name and help us reach 1 million signatures to show those in power we are serious. We're going to explain in this episode today why we need 1 million signatures today. As Paul didn't just ask for equality, she starved for it, literally. After suffragists won the 19th Amendment, she knew the fight wasn't over. In 1923, yes, a century ago, she drafted the ERA with 3 simple lines. Equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged on account of sex. But here's where it gets messy. The ERA was too radical. Even some feminists opposed it, afraid it would erase protective labor laws for women. Translation, you can't handle equality. Sounds familiar. And then the backlash. Paul was force-fed in prison, called hysterical, a dangerous woman. The ERA stalled for decades. As Paul was a pivotal figure in the American women's suffragist movement and a relentless advocate for gender equality. Alice was born in 1885. She became the leading strategist for the National American Women's Suffragist Association, the NAWSA, before breaking away to form the more radical National Woman's Party in 1916. Paul's tactics, including picketing the White House and enduring forced feedings during hunger strikes, were instrumental in securing the 19th Amendment's ratification in 1920. Yet her fight didn't end there. Recognizing suffrage as the one of many steps, she drafted the Equal Rights Amendment in 1923, aiming to constitutionally guarantee equal rights regardless of sex. The ERA faced immediate resistance, even among some suffragists who feared, again, it would dismantle those protective laws that were for women. Paul, however, argued that such laws perpetuated inequality by treating women as inherently weaker. For decades, the amendment languished in Congress, dismissed as too radical. It wasn't until the feminist resurgence of the 1960s and 70s that the ERA gained traction. Fueled by figures like Gloria Steinem and Shirley Chisholm, in 1972, Congress finally passed it, sending it to the states for ratification with a 7-year deadline, later extended to 1982. Despite bipartisan support, initially opposition mobilized under conservative activist cunt-face Phyllis Schlafly, who framed the ERA as a threat to traditional gender roles. Schlafly's Stop ERA campaign argued it would lead to unisex bathrooms, women in combat, and the erosion of alimony. These scare tactics, combined with shifting political tides, stalled the ratification at 35 states, 3 short of the required 38. The deadline expired and the ERA seemingly died. Yet the fight revived in the 21st century. Nevada in 2017, Illinois in 2018, and then Virginia in 2020 belatedly ratified the amendment, reigniting legal debates over the expired deadlines. Advocates argued Congress could remove or extend it again, while opponents insist the process must restart. Meanwhile, Alice Paul's legacy endures, her unyielding vision of equality now woven into broader movements of the LGBT and T and Q communities, rights, and the intersectional feminism. The ERA remains unrealized, but its symbols persist. Paul's radical insistence that equality must be codified, not merely won through piecemeal legislation, continues to challenge the status quo. Her life work underscores a truth still relevant today. Constitutional change is slow, contested, and often generations in the making. The battle she began a century ago isn't over. It's simply waiting for its next chapter. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about Gloria, Phyllis, and the near miss that happened. Don't forget, though, the best way to ensure that the Unveiled Mind stays around for years to come is to go to our sponsor and get the great food you need anyways. Go to that cuminclub.com and put in code word Jackie, and you will receive 30% off your whole order. Welcome back. The story of the Equal Rights Amendment is one of triumph, backlash, and resurrection. And Gloria Steinem was at the heart of it all. By the 1970s, Steinem had already cemented her place as a feminist icon, co-founding Ms. Magazine, which is still in print today, and becoming the face of the women's liberation movement. But her congressional testimony in favor of the ERA was a masterclass in defiance. Dressed in a miniskirt, a garment conservative often weaponized to dismiss feminists as unserious, she stared down the male-dominated committee and declared, "This is what an ERA supporter looks like." It was a calculated provocation, forcing lawmakers to confront their own sexism while embodying the very freedom the amendment sought to guarantee. Opposition was fierce and again led by Phyllis Schlafly and her Stop ERA campaign. This weaponized all folks on the conservative women's side. Schlafly's warnings about unisex bathrooms and women being drafted into combat were inserted at their face, yet devastatingly effective. She framed the ERA as a threat to traditional gender roles, exploiting anxieties about sociological upheaval. Meanwhile, Steinem and her allies fought to reframe the debate, arguing that equality wasn't about erasing differences, but ensuring dignity. The clash wasn't just political, it was cultural, putting two visions of womanhood against each other. Congress passed the ERA in 1972 with bipartisan support, and ratification seemed inevitable as 35 states swiftly signed on. But Schlafly's movement gained traction, stalling progress in key states like Illinois and Florida. The deadline loomed, first extended to 1982 and then allowed to lapse, leaving the amendment 3 states short. Conventional wisdom declared the ERA dead, but Steinem refused to concede. She understood that legal setbacks didn't erase the movement's momentum. "You can't unring a bell," she often said, insisting the fight had permanently shifted public consciousness. Decades later, the ERA's ghost returned. In 2017, Nevada ratified it, following by Illinois in 2018, and then again Virginia in 2020, technically hitting the 38-state threshold. Since then, there have been legal battles over the expired deadline, and they continue to rage on. But Steinem's legacy is undeniable. Her work laid the groundwork for later victories from Title IX to marriage equality. The ERA's revival proves her point. Ideas don't expire. Steinem's genius was in making feminism accessible. She didn't just lobby politicians, she wrote essays, gave TV interviews, and even posed as a Playboy bunny in an undercover scheme to explode workplace exploitation. Her advocacy wasn't confined to elite circles, it was for waitresses, factory workers, and housewives. The ERA fight exemplified this inclusivity, uniting women across race, and class lines. Today, the bathroom panic Schlafly stoked seems quaint, but her tactics endure. The same scare tactics resurface in anti-trans legislation, proven Steinen's warning. The truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off. The ERA's near miss wasn't a failure, though. It was a rehearsal. So did the ERA die? Not quite. It's dormant like a volcano. Steinem taught us that movements outlive amendments. The paperwork might gather dust, but the demand for equality, that is forever. The truth of the ERA is that it's not just about women. It's about anyone denied rights on the account of sex. Trans women like me fighting for access to health care without being gatekept by outdated laws. Non-binary folks erased from legal protections because the system refuses to acknowledge their existence. Men trapped in custody battles, assumed unfit parents simply for being fathers. The gender pay gap, still 82 cents to the dollar. Unless you're a black woman, then it's around 63. Pregnancy discrimination, alive and well, with women forced to choose between their careers and their families while paternal leave remains a punchline. And legally, without the ERA, Roe v. Wade had no constitutional anchor, and we all saw how that played out. The right to privacy was gutted, leaving abortion bans to spread like wildfire. But it's not just reproductive rights. Without explicit equality in the Constitution, every hard-won victory feels precious. Workplace protections, all of these things are vulnerable to the whims of the courts and politicians who think equality is a bargaining chip. Nevada, Illinois, and Virginia, they revived ratification decades after the deadline, proving the fight isn't over. The House voted to remove the arbitrary time limit because civil rights shouldn't come with an expiration date. The Senate, while we're waiting, Mitch McConnell's ghost still haunts the chamber and the filibuster looms like a guillotine. But here's the thing, history doesn't move in a straight line. If they thought we'd quit just because they stalled, they don't know us. My question, I guess, for all of you is who's afraid of equality? The truth of if the ERA passes, the patriarchy loses its favorite weapon, ambiguity. No more, we'll get to it, no more biology justifies discrimination. Just equality, raw, naked, and unveiled. I want you to sit with that, then ask yourself, what is your role in this story? The ghost? The rebel? Or the one who finally buries the ghost? Thank you guys again for tuning into this episode. I am beyond grateful for all of the opportunities that this is bringing me. And amongst some of my wonderful travels, started talks this evening with Congresswoman-to-be Robin Wilt. She is running for New York State Congress here out of Rochester, New York. So she will be joining me in a couple of episodes. I will keep you updated as we have our people talk and get these things figured out. But until then, I want you to stay bold, stay naked in your truth. This is Jacquelyn Cuyler wishing you all an unveiled day.